everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Can you guys hear me okay?
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
You guys hear me? Okay. My condolences then. All right. How are you guys doing? Are you guys doing today, wherever you are?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, doing great, man. Doing wonderfully. I'm down in Florida, so.
Hey, so am I.
Oh,
Florida.
okay. What
How's the
part
weather
of
there
Florida
right
are you
now?
from?
I was wondering if the weather.
Hot.
Yeah, pretty hot.
I'm in the South Dakota
Really
County
still hot.
area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Off the Gulf.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't. Does it ever get cold down there?
Sometimes.
Yeah, some like last winter here was pretty warm. It was really warm most of the time, like in the 60s, 50s. But then, a few days we had it go down to the 30s and stuff. But yeah, but I heard this winter is going to be a unseasonably cold winter. Is what I've heard.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's gonna be rough.
El Nino. Yeah.
I do a lot of gardening, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems
What about
like
the weather in Seoul?
it seems like
Korea.
global warming only affects you in the worst
Yeah.
ways.
Mhm.
Like it's never too cold. So
You're cutting in and
yeah.
out.
It's
Yeah,
global warming is
cutting
quite a jerk. Anyway, let's just get right into this topic today about eating meat. I'm going to assume that Mage Gray Wolf thinks that eating meat is okay because he's a wolf. So you can go first. What do you think? Is eating meat ethical?
If the way we currentently process it, you actually have questions as to the efficacy of how we handle our animals. Though my own personal story with eating meat is I actually started out a vegetarian for the first few years of my life, and then I saw a burger commercial for a burger on TV, and I wanted to try it, and I did it, and basically ate meat for the rest of my afterwards. There was more into efficacy than just that. For instance, we can look at how the emotional impact of animals. For instance, a cow can actually be in distress and mourn from the death of another cow or the loss of their calf, which can last for a while. Though most cows have been shown to have only a long-term memory of about 6 weeks. Pigs have been shown to
Oh, wow.
have memories for several months, and just kind of give you a contrast to something that we don't generally eat, such as dogs. Some excuse me, some studies have shown that dogs generally only have a memory for about 2 minutes. Though it really depends on what it is they're memorizing. So, for instance, somebody who they're close to, such as in their pack and whatnot, they'll actually can retain that memory for the entire life. Another point of
Wow.
efficacy would probably be the point of sapience, which would be we have sapience. I think it's somewhat questionable whether most animals, well, particularly livestock, has sapience, and it's basically the ability to apply knowledge and expertise and understanding of common sense and insight, or wisdom, in other words, which is sci-fi tends to mingle that with sentience, which is just being
You
aware of.
know, there's this interesting. Oh, sorry. There's this interesting story about this World War II veteran, or I'm sorry, World War II soldier in Japan, and he got killed, and his dog went to visit his grave like every day. Like it's a really sad story. So I think they are able to have some longer term memories. But anyway, just interesting. Scott, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so as far as eating meat ethical, like I would say that like it kind of just reminds me like a moral framework of that we call the best of all possible worlds. So like in the best of all possible worlds, we could just generate meat and or something like meat to where we wouldn't have to eat livestock anymore, right? In the best of all possible worlds. So
Mhm.
obviously it would probably be more ethical to eat processed, totally arbitrary processed created meat, artificial rather meat, than it would be to eat livestock, right? If I was to grant that, then I would say that ultimately what I'm saying is it is unethical. But fundamentally, I'm not sure, to be quite honest with you. Um, it's kind of hard to call it because, in nature, animals eat each other all the time, and it's just part of the natural world
Mhm.
for survival. And then you have to kind of balance out. But I think with humans, the question comes up. Well, humans can sort of do something that other animals can't. They can sort of control the environment and, like I said, create alternatives or think up alternatives rather than eating meat, maybe eating plants. Um, and they said, so you're, if you're really serious about it, if you're really serious about doing the ethical thing, then you'd probably be a vegetarian, might be the argument in that case. But then we can dig deeper and say, well, right now plants are considered. Um, some people argue that plants are considered, sentient beings or sapient beings as well, right? So the argument could be, well, if there's a question there, like whether these plants are conscious and feel and scream like they say, when they get like when grass gets cut, stuff like that. I don't know how true that is, by the way.
It's a chemical signal.
Yeah, like it could be anything. I don't think anybody really knows. So for me, fundamentally, I don't really know what the case, whether it really is ultimately unethical to do that or not. But then again,
So,
under like I said, under
so,
the best of all possible worlds, it might be, you know, unethical.
Tad, to
so,
Tad,
Yeah.
to Tad, what he was
okay.
saying.
So there's a couple of things. Okay, so there's a couple things I want to say. One, um, I am a Christian, but there was a many years of my life I was a vegetarian Christian because I believed that. Well, this is actually totally true. If you look at the Genesis account, um, both humans and animals were created to be vegetarians, but it wasn't until after their sin introduced that animals started to get eaten and sacrificed. And so for me, I was trying to get back to my roots, um, as far as my Christian, the roots there in Judaism. So, but the thing is that I moved to South Korea. So part of the thing is like whenever I'm in a country, I like to eat their food. So how to start eating meat again. But I definitely do think that there's a lot of immoral things about certainly the meat industry. And I'll just give you one quick example from South Korea because uh, South Korea doesn't have the space or like the grainage to give to the cows. So South Korea has to import all of its like beef from America and Australia. So because it is just so inefficient to give the grain to the cow to raise to eat, and that's just one example there. But I do want to talk briefly about the meat industry, and if you guys can give me any thoughts on that.
Well, like as I mentioned, I think it's pretty horrendous. So just before I get into that, I want to just kind of add on into what Scott was saying. We do have, we are working on lab grown meat. The only problem is it's really friggin' expensive. And an interesting point on from an evolutionary point of view is our encephalized brain may actually have been the result of us eating meat. So the whole thing that we are even able to ask this question may be actually the result of us eating meat.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was saying about our natural tendency to eat meat just like other animals eat each other. They eat meat too. So we're part of that. We're animals. If you take the naturalistic view, we're all animals. So ethics may apply only within the framework of like a human construct, you know, but not necessarily
Right.
objectively, like a natural objective, moral. I don't know if that's true fundamentally because I'm not really sold on the idea that morality is objective.
Mm.
So this raises an interesting question because I find that people who are vegan or and I find that to be contradictory because atheists also believe in evolution and survival of the fittest. So it doesn't really make sense that we just abruptly gain like this conscious about like why surviving is wrong. I understand if you have the issues with the ethical farming, because I think that there's a lot of problems with that, the raising of cattle and the treatment of the animals, and maybe even the slaughter of the animals. So I do want to ask you guys something. Just imagine for a second that we genetically engineered animals to die within like, I don't know, I think it takes like a cow like a year and a half, and then it takes like a chicken's like 6 months or 6 weeks to be able to get slaughtered. So what if we genetically engineered the animals to die of like old age at that time so that we wouldn't have to like physically kill them? I think that might solve some of the ethical problems, because I think the people's problem with eating meat isn't so much the eating meat, but it's having to kill the animals. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Interesting
Well,
concept. Go ahead.
oh yeah, I was just gonna say that that's still sort of an arbitrary. All of this, it just kind of strikes me as really arbitrary. Like you had mentioned about the seeming contradiction. Like the same folks that believe in evolution also believe that it's immoral to actually um, eat meat or whatever the case is, right? But I think that from just to kind of defend them on that, from their point of view, the understanding is that as evolved creatures, we have the luxury to replace hunting for meat and stuff like that. So that's where the ethics, you're able to transcend your
Mm,
evolutionary
mhm,
trait. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of
mm, mm.
that we have, like to
Mm.
procreate can be a very strong urge, like the sex drive. But if you're a married person, you can still be committed in your marriage and not do that. You
Uh,
transcend your nature, you know, so you can do. That's how they
interesting.
argue for that ethic. But go
Interesting.
ahead. I
I'm
just
not. I'm not so sure if it is
Interesting.
transcending our nature, but rather but part of our nature, to be able to do those kind of things. And so, yeah, I think the way factory farms operate is pretty horrendous. Is I
mm,
do think that we need to find more ethical ways of killing the animals in a way that it isn't so traumatic to them. Even if you want to argue just from um, oh hello, just from a
mm,
regular perspective, the meat's going to taste better that way. I mean, just
hmm
want to argue from that perspective.
yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, it's
I'm not sure if you guys have heard about this, but good,
yeah.
Scott.
You go right ahead, man. Because I forgot what I was going to
Well,
say.
yeah, my daughter's joining the stream. She's made a few cameos. So,
uh,
sorry to interrupt you. So, the thing is that in South Korea, there's a lot of issues with eating meat here because I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of sangachi, which is like it's when they take an octopus and they like chop it up and then it's alive. So
Oh,
it's like
yes,
it's wiggling
yes,
around.
I
And
have heard
so
of that.
they basically they either eat them they eat them alive or they boil them. They'll boil them alive too. And then the other thing that they'll do is that because they want them really fresh. So you're talking about taste right now. And then the other thing that they do that's really, I believe, unethical is that they'll like torture the dogs before they eat them
Mm.
because they like the taste of the adrenaline in the blood. And they've come under a lot of criticism for that. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty bad. So I had never owned a dog before. So whenever dog was offered to me here, I had no problem to eat it. But afterwards, we got my daughter a dog, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing the way that that dog brought my daughter happiness, I it's a lot harder for me to stomach the thought of eating a dog now.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I do believe that it is just another. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
a little bit cuter, but I think I would still eat it. By the way, Purple Rhymes with Orange says even horseshoe crabs will try to help out their own when they see them in distress. And I have to say that is actually 100% not true because crabs are very shellfish. So that's not true. All right. Sorry. That was my dad joke for the day. All right. Scott, did you remember? Scott, you remember what you had to say?
No, not really. But I guess I could kind
Okay.
of
So
add
then,
on.
okay, good.
I could kind of add on to something there. But with the whole ethics thing, everything that we're talking about, I mean, at the end of the day, is going to be an arbitrary thing, right? Like, because we're human beings. And so being human means we have emotions. And, like, for example, a dog is just another animal like a cow or a squirrel or something like that, right? We, sort of place value on different animals over different animals, right? So this whole thing is kind of arbitrary at the end of the day. It really depends on your moral framework and your culture, cultural norms, like what's normal in Saudi Arabia may not be normal in the States, right? So the moral frameworks are going to be totally different, totally different. So I guess when we're asking about is it ethical from whose standpoint? Because from a Jewish standpoint or maybe a Islamic standpoint, eating meat is not immoral at all. Neither
Well,
is killing dogs.
we do know God does like make a barbecue.
Yep.
Well, but, but they do have they they do have they do have certain kind of rules as far as killing the animals though. So for instance, like not trying to kill the animal swiftly, which is I think is good because like let's just assume for a second that we have to live in a world where there's absolutely going to be eating of meat. Like I think the minimal things we could be doing is for the time that the animals are alive, like making sure that they have the ability to move around, that they're comfortable, that they're fed, um, and when it does come time to kill them, like a very peaceful death where there's not going to be any struggling or any pain. I think that would be at least the bare minimal that we could be striving for in this world right now.
I agree.
Yeah. And, but it's also good to sort of, when you're asking these philosophically, um, when you think about how we're discussing the killing of animals for consumption, like we should be, more humane about it and everything like that. Suppose we were talking about a culture that was like cannibals, and we should be careful on how we kill other humans because we don't want them to suffer, unduly. We just want to eat them without all the suffering and all that, because that would make it better, right? So obviously, like, this is an extreme example, right? So you can see that you're looking at animals already. We're looking at animals on a different moral level, right? So, where do we draw the line with the ethics? I guess is my question.
Or
Hey,
Because there's
interesting.
don't
This
kill
is just
animals at all.
this is a total tangent, but it's not good.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Why not then ask why even kill animals at all, if we know that it's bad?
unfortunately, we've kind of dug our own hole with that, such as like with
Right.
meat chickens. We've
Mhm.
developed them in a way that if we were to just not let them go and live, if they would actually suffer, or a lot more than culling them.
Mm. So, but on a normal basis, just trying to play the position of the vegan, which I'm not. They'll say, yeah, but it's better that they just live out their life naturally than us imposing our will on these animals and killing them, because it would be a crime in any other sense if it was to a human. So what about the argument from consistency there?
Well, like I said, we would have to, we
S-
basically have
Okay.
to make our
So
chickens extinct.
Yeah.
so okay. So okay. A couple of things here. I wanted to tell you quickly about this tangent that the Rockefellers, one of their grandsons, one of the guys in there, he actually went to, I believe, either Bali or Indonesia or Papua New Guinea, somewhere down there, and he tried to buy like these totem poles where they believed that like the people that they had killed in battle, like their souls had resided in
Mm-hmm.
these um, in these poles, and he wanted their Rockefellers, so they have a lot of money. And actually, they wind up killing this dude and eating him. And they, yeah, and some of these Amazon forests, and I don't know about Amazon, but there's some places where their cannibalism is still like a part of their culture, their society. Maybe eating a part of someone who you've killed, or maybe even your ancestors, like your mom and dad. You might eat some part of them to have a part of them with you. So that is interesting. But I do want to talk to you.
Cannibalism is largely.
I do want to talk to you about eating bugs.
Mm-hmm.
I've got no problem with eating bugs. I've eaten bugs.
Scott, your thought?
I don't want to eat bugs because I'm not used to eating bugs, but I don't see it as unethical to eat bugs, I guess. But then again, I may be wrong about that. I'm not really sure.
Well, I was looking into it before the whole show starts, and it seems some of our earliest ancestors may have been insectivores.
Yep. Eukaryotes.
Well, protein wise, I heard it's like the best bet. Also, um, also there is a consideration that you can, like, pretty much all of the ethical problems that people might have with eating meat, like, don't really exist with growing let's say like worms or crickets or whatever, because you can
Yeah.
grow them indoors. It's really efficient. It's high in protein, and you don't have to worry about diverting like grain or tons of water to feed them.
Yes, the reason why
Not
we're
only that, but
considering
they
it.
seem to be very, very right. But it seems like they seem to be very. I mean, obviously they're conscious in some sense, but maybe they're just like not a very high level of maybe just all completely instinct, so they don't have like feelings or maybe process pain the same way we do? It might just be more like an instinct.
Yeah, there actually is some question as to whether
What are your thoughts on that?
there is some question as to whether some insects really even would feel pain in the way we do, considering it would not be evolutionary advantageous, just given their short lifespan. The reason why we feel pain is because we have a long lifespan, and it's to tell us that there's something wrong with that part of our body, and we need to do something about it. Oh, just a little side thing. Purple in the side chat here made a good point about very few domestic animals could survive if they were released into the wild. Just a little side tangent on that. But yeah, insects are very efficient. That's actually the reason why we're considering them as a food source, or an alternative food source to our current meat methods of getting protein. All right.
Yeah. Whether insects feel pain or anything like that, I don't think anybody would really know that. Not sure how you would scientifically test for that, but but I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, there's cultures all over the world that eat insects, and they seem to be doing just fine. But are they immoral people? I don't know. It just depends on, again, how we're framing it.
Right. Well, Scott, I do want to tell you a quick story because I was in Thailand and I was very, very drunk. And this American guy comes up and he's pretty drunk as well because I'm looking at this like cart. They have carts with like deep fried crickets and roaches and worms and stuff. And you get like a bag and it's like candy. It's like one of those candy shops. And they deep fry them with honey. And he's like, he came up, he ordered one. I just about threw up. And he's like, come on, man, you got to try one. You got to try one. So I tried one. It was all right. But that being said, there's alternative ways to making bugs that like you don't have to physically see the bug. So, for example, like grinding them, crickets, for example, you can freeze them and then like grind them into something that's similar to, it's like a flour and make bread out of it. So there is because I do understand, like if you just saw a roach, it would be pretty difficult to stomach eating that. But on the other hand, like we eat bugs all the time without knowing it. They get mixed into our food. And even at nighttime, we'll eat bugs just throughout the day. It happens on accident. That's why, I don't know, what is it? Well, no. You know what? There's actually like the FDA allows a certain level of like bug parts to like grain and stuff because it would be impossible to get them all out. It's just absolutely impossible. But yeah, it's funny. No, what's there? Oh, Jainism. Something about Jainism that like they cover their mouths during the day so that they don't have to worry about eating animals, eating insects. So that's something
what a
to
bunch
consider.
Of virtue signalers.
That
it'd be the nighttime you'd have to be more worried than the daytime. I think.
I'm gonna let you guys.
Well,
right.
Actually, we do.
I'm gonna take myself off stream for a minute. Let you guys go for it.
Well, we do have process some insects.
I'll be back in about 10 minutes. You guys keep the
conversation. And regularly, the red dye in certain types of candy is derived from an insect.
Oh yeah, yeah. There. There's no accounting for. That's the whole thing. It's that it's so convenient. It's just too convenient to say, eating animals in any kind of form or way is unethical when it's so impossible. Just about if you're going to live in any modern, Western city or civilization, because processed food, technology, all of this stuff is just normal. It's part of everything. Unless you're Amish or you grow your own food somewhere and you can really, live like that. and and again, I don't know whether ultimately whether it's ethical or not, fun on a fundamental level, but I don't care. Like, my impulse to eat meat is overpowering any care about that.
And there are some people who can't have a vegan diet
Right.
for various reasons.
Right.
The genetic disposition, the gut microbiome in their system. They might not be able to obtain certain levels
That's
of the
just God
protein.
testing them. Just testing you, see how serious you are to do the right thing.
And then on the flip side, there are people who kind of need to be on a vegan diet. So, for instance, if you have poor kidneys that have a meat or high animal protein is very rough on the kidneys. So if you
Hmm.
have poor kidneys, that can actually be a problem, and where you'd be better off on a vegan diet.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's just so many. I mean, reality is a big range of possible places you can fall into. So it's not that binary, anyways. People need meat. Some people don't, like you're saying, just to survive. So I
Yeah.
think that this whole ethical question is a very subjective sort of thing.
Mm. Yeah, like for instance, I have a whole section of my family who are vegan. So one of my cousins, and he had to stop being vegan because he just could not get the proper nutrients from the diet, even though he obviously knew what he was doing. It wasn't like he just didn't know what he was doing and wasn't getting the nutrients that way. He knew how to eat properly on a vegan diet, but just for
Hmm.
whatever reason with him specifically, he couldn't do it.
Hmm. Hmm. And in that case, it'd be more ethical to for him to eat meat, so he can survive and live a
Or
better life.
or at the very least, is to go
Ooh.
vegetarian, where you can have animal byproducts such as eggs, cheese, and so forth.
Yeah.
Um, I do want to say, Purple, thank you very much for your contributions. She knows a lot about a lot of things. But on the other hand, purple also believes that purple rhymes with orange. So I'm not so sure how much we could take about what she says seriously. Actually, purple. I'm so sorry. We've been meaning to have purple is trans, and we've been meaning to have a discussion on that. But I've this has been my first. I've streamed once in the last 2 months because life has just gotten busy, and yeah, I'm sorry, I've been out of the picture for a while now. But actually, one of Scott's co-hosts is also a trans as well. So she just asked me today about doing a discussion on that. So we'd love to hear from you, Purple, if you want to join us for that. I do want to switch it up real quick. Why is it that you find people who are vegans or vegetarians, they tend to be really pushy about what they believe and like really demeaning towards people who eat meat? I'm wondering if you guys can give me your thoughts on that.
Because they take it serious. You're killing animals and eating them. Someone should be outside of the place with a sign. They're not going to sit there and be like, yeah, I don't want to be a jerk or anything and ruin anybody's day, but it's wrong. They're killing animals. It's murder.
I
When
could
they think it's murder, they're gonna be really pushy about that.
trying to put myself in the mindset. I could see how that would make somebody be pushy.
Yeah. It's like the abortion people. They're really mad about. They think you're killing babies down there. So yeah, they're gonna be pushy about it. They're not gonna just
Mhm.
stand idly by and let other human beings get murdered every day. That's how they think about it. So when you put yourself in their shoes, you can be a little more empathetic towards you know why they're so passionate, maybe.
Well, I do want to chime in that for a second, because when I told you guys that I ate dog, this was like 15 years ago in South Korea, and I was quite an obnoxious person at that time because, well, I'm still obnoxious now, but I'm getting better. But anyway, at that time, I was, fresh out of college, and I was fresh out of college, and I saw a video that was like, oh, in the dog suffering in South Korea. And I'm like, and I said something really off base. I was like, well, if you knew how delicious dog was, like you wouldn't be saying that. And then, man, because I'm like, I've eaten dog here in South Korea. And incidentally, when you say you're from South Korea online, like people automatically just assume you eat dog. It's pretty bad. In fact, there's this joke that says, what do you call a Korean walking a dog? A vegetarian. But it's surprisingly small amount of people actually eat dog here in South Korea. Like, in fact, if you were to mention eating dog to like someone in their 20s or a kid, they would just laugh because it's so ridiculous. And just so you know, though, this idea of eating dogs really strongly came about in the Korean War, when people were starving and they had to resort to eating their pets. So people who love to have this moral high position don't know the kind of situations that people live in around the world. Like we can talk about things in an AC or heated with the internet and stuff, but you don't know the circumstances people live in around the world. But anyway, that being said, I did want to share. I did want to share something that happened, because right after I posted that, I got like a flood of hate mail. Like, I'm going to kill you. Someone even said it was un-American. I was like, where's the relationship between eating a dog and being un-American? I was like, I couldn't get that. But the reality is, though, and this is serious. In North Korea, there's so in South Korea, they yearly do these raids on, like, these people from America come and they raid these dog farms, and they make a really big deal out of it every year.
Man.
And yet, just a couple hundred miles up north, you have humans basically living in worse conditions than most animals live in these factory farms, because these people actually starving to death and are being tortured and abused. And you don't hear nearly the kind of outrage about what's happening in North Korea. Because I have worked with the refugees, I have heard stories of cannibalism and rape and public executions and stuff. I have interviewed them on my channel, so I have seen some and heard some horrific stories. But yeah, so that's the other thing. The other thing that I'll ask you next, that is, if the people who have these vegan ideas and moral superiority, why do you think that they put such a higher priority among animals than actual human beings who are suffering in the world? I want to get your thoughts on that, Scott. And
it makes you wonder if they really care for humans as much as animals. When you hear how they talk about it, but that may just be a perception problem. I admit that.
Yeah, I think the ones that seem to genuinely put other animals over humans tends to be a minority.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Probably a lot of them, in terms of living, probably put humans and other animals basically on par with each other.
Mm-hmm. And they come at it from a point of view of looking at the animal in a certain paradigm and humans in another paradigm. So humans are automatically to have the burden of the responsibility over the animal, because we're entrusted. We're like, we have the power to help the animal, not the other way around. So the messaging is going to be more about what we can do to help the animal. And a lot of people, I know family members and things like that I've heard talking about this would be like, man, those people care about animals more than us, man. It's like they're just all about the little doggies and kitties around the world or whatever. But I think it's just people who genuinely, feel empathetic and sympathetic towards animals. It's not that they put humans necessarily below them.
Mm.
That could be a perception problem, you know.
Yeah. I just forgot what I was going to say. Oh, well, anyway, I kind of wish this would be the point of the discussion where I wish we actually had a vegan in here, to give their perspective.
Yeah, right. I know. I don't want to be straw manning them.
Yeah, I mean, like, try and steel man the position as much as we can here, but
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just try to understand the position the best I can, and pretty much it's not that hard to figure out. We've got a comment from Purple Rhymes with Orange. Be easier to eat a neighbor I barely know than eat my cats. I don't eat friends.
yeah,
See?
that's part of our tribal mentality. We
Yeah,
become the way we become attached to our
Right.
pets and other people. Well, like our close family
Oh
members,
God.
you're going to be
Oh
less
my God.
apt to want to harm somebody who's in our tribe than someone who's not in our tribe, and
that's right.
it
Right.
kind of works the same way with animals.
Hey,
That cow you eat isn't going to be in your tribe, so it's going to be less. It's difficult to eat that than in Fido,
Hmm.
who's you're playing tug of war with your foot right now.
hey, do, do I have heard, Purple, just so you know, I have heard from like uh, crime scene investigators that when like older people die and they have dogs and cats, like oh God, this is so bad, but the dogs will not start to eat the person, but the cats will. So yeah, don't die around those cats because they might have a go at you if you don't have any extra food. But actually, I do want to transition to something because Scott was talking about still manning, and you guys are both atheists, and one of the things I've tried to do with the podcast is to try to give people an opportunity to express differing ideas and opinions, and to be safe and to not be not to be intimidated or yell or anything like that. So I do want to say today is an extremely, extremely, extremely special day. One of the biggest for RIG podcast because I have not spoken to Scott in about 2 years because we did have a bit of a misunderstanding online or whatever. And he recently messaged me and apologized for that. And I can't even begin to express like how meaningful that was to me, Scott, because as I said, there's been a lot of ups and downs in this, but this is really seeing you on here is actually like been one of the high points of this whole experience for me. So I want to thank you so much for that, and
Cool.
I look forward to talks where we're just trying to see things from other people's perspective. And you saw my daughter come on here, and this is RHE has been something that it's been my gift that I wanted to give to my daughter to create a way in which people can. I mean, we've probably had like 30 or so worldviews represented on here, and it's been amazing to see people come in and we've disagreed on some stuff, but we've also tried to see things from the other person's perspective. So yeah, I just want to thank you so much for that, Scotty. I can't even express how much that meant to me.
Yeah, no problem, man. The thing about some of these issues is that you can easily get emotionally invested and identified into it.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to lose perspective from what another person is maybe trying to convey because you're too busy projecting. And that's a human thing. And it's something I've worked hard on trying not to be that way. Because I used to be very religious like that. I used to be very, very zealous like that. And it was easy for me to judge things and judge people and just, I know what's right and I'm going to go with God or whatever. And it's like what I've kind of learned is that you have to be more empathetic, man. Try to understand another person's point of view, and also give them a right to challenge things, even your deepest held beliefs, and things that you may feel are um, a moral issue somehow, ethical issue, like we're talking about. Like, suppose I was somebody
Yeah,
who,
exactly.
really didn't eat meat, and then you're someone who eats meat, but you have your reasons why. Well, we can still talk about it without hating each other, but it becomes such a
Right, right.
moral issue that it's like, now I'm starting to view you as a murderer, you know, and that's how this
Hmm.
stuff gets blown out of proportion.
Mm. And then on this particular
You got any thoughts on that,
platform,
Mac?
well, on this particular platform itself, I think in the platform you're in channel that you're trying to build here, it transcends you as a person.
Hmm.
That
That's right. And ego and all that.
Yeah, and you know what? I did recently here. I do want to wrap this up because it is the holidays here in South Korea, so I'm visiting my family here in Seoul. So I'm gonna wrap it
oh,
up in the next 5-10 minutes. But I do want to say that. Oh, and that's interesting that Purple said that. Yeah, in history, people have eaten pets or dogs or even horses, on the battlefield in the past when food supplies have ran low. They have resorted to eating their horses. So that is something that has happened. Oh, and they've also resorted to eating snails there, and in Europe too. So that's something else altogether. But uh, recently, I saw a discussion, um, and it was specifically on the trans issue and about how people can get very, very heated on both sides. And I think this person was just saying that, like, we have to try to give the person the benefit of the doubt in these conversations, that they're trying to do what they believe is best with the amount of information that they have. And so most people want to think of themselves as moral and ethical people. But specifically, when we start talking about these issues, everybody wants to think that they have the moral position, the moral upper hand. And I'm finishing up my third book right now, and I do reference going to my atheist co-host's house in the UK, visiting him this last Christmas, and we exchanged gifts for each other's families and such. And then they uh, at some point I'm there, and I'm seeing the way he's interacting with his family and his daughter and his wife, and I'm thinking, you know what, this guy's a better father than me. This guy takes care of his daughter's attentions and needs better than I do. And I'm here as a Christian, and I think I have the moral upper hand. And I thought, man, unless I am, able to step my game up, man, my religion is useless. And the Bible talks about that, like, unless you're actually using your religion, it's useless. So just having positions that you might think are better than others doesn't mean that you live that out, that you practice it. Because I was telling Scott, like, yesterday, I'm like, okay, as a lot of Christians I know struggle with, like, pornography, and we all philosophically know that it's wrong, but that doesn't stop us from doing it. And so I think Scott was saying that something about eating meat is wrong, but hey, I still do it. Or unethical. So there are these issues are, first of all, they're not as black and white. One, and then people don't live consistently always within what they profess to believe in. You know what I mean?
Yep. That's a
Wow, look at
good
this.
observation to have, and it makes us more empathetic towards each other, and it can help us be more communicative because no one has that higher ground, so there's none of that
Sure, sure.
competition, and that's a positive.
Mage, you got any thoughts on that, or just your overall? What's been your overall experience with RHE? I think you've been on like six, maybe six, 7 times.
Well, I pretty well summed it up. I think what you're doing here is more than just you yourself. Basically, pretty much all I can say on that. Uh,
Right. And actually, the thing I really love about having Mage on is that every time he comes on, he does all this research in advance. So he always like outdoes me, always outshines me because he has all these amazing references and ideas that I've never thought about. So I really appreciate that. But all right, let's wrap this up. Anybody have any last thoughts?
No, man, just glad to talk to you again, man. It's been a while, so
should,
I'm
do we
just
get to
very
show our,
happy to.
2 years.
do we get to show our stuff?
I think there's
Mage?
a lag.
Got anything else to say?
Do we get to show our stuff here?
Maybe he can't hear you. Can you hear him?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
What did you say?
I was asking if we can show our stuff here, our sites and all that. Well, we're waiting to get a response.
I'm sorry. One more time. Show our what?
Our sites, our websites and all that. Can you?
Website.
You have a website?
Well, I have a YouTube channel.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
plug the channel. Like channel. You got anything to plug? Oh yeah, Scott, you're making music these days, right?
Yeah, check me out, man. If you guys like, electronic music, I DJ for a radio station in LA called Mix 93 FM. But I also, produce music and stuff like that and all kinds of cool stuff. So yeah, check me out. Go to Bandcamp.
As long as you don't start rapping.
No, just go to bandcamp.dubshine and you'll check out some of the beats and yeah.
All right. Well, I got my.
Hold on, I'll put it up right now.
I've got my garden channel, Gardens Happen.
I'll put these up right now.
Yeah, I'm closing in on 200 subscribers. I'm only eight subscribers away, and
all right.
On a little personal note, it's actually going to be my birthday this week.
Oh, happy birthday, man!
Yeah.
Oops.
So looking forward to that.
Whose birthday is it?
Mine.
Mage. Wow. Oh, okay. Happy birthday, man. I'll have to send you another Starbucks card. What did you say that was? Bandcamp?
.com?
Bandcamp.
Bandcamp.dubshine. Here, I'll put the link in the private chat.
Yeah, I'll put my thing in the private as well.
Dubshine?
Here we go. Just a second here.
Don't go to this one. Atheism was a cult on.
There you go. I put it in the private chat. Yeah.
Yeah. Just I do want to add one thing. There we go. I do want to say just one thing. Is that right, Dubshine?
Yes, that's correct. That is correct.
Is this right, Scott?
Actually here. Actually, no. Okay. Hold on.
Yep, it'll be this Thursday.
Mage, what was yours? Okay, here we go. I got it. Okay, I got
my
it.
garden link in there. Yeah.
Do you want to say Gardens is happening? Put in the chat.
Mm-hmm. So
I do want to.
Chat.
I do want to close out and I'm pretty sure that the basic how do you say empathy is that you wouldn't want somebody to do something to you that you wouldn't want to do something to someone. They take that into consideration with eating meat. I'm pretty sure none of us would want to get eaten. Although
Right.
I will say that there's communities online. I mean, there's probably communities for everything you can imagine, but there's community of people who are charmed by the idea of getting parts of them cannibalized. But anyway, for most people, we wouldn't want that being done to us. And I think what we can do is take that into consideration. And although probably eating meat isn't cutting out meat entirely may not be completely reasonable, maybe finding maybe replacing half of your meat intake, or having days or weekends maybe where you're taking a step away from that. That might be interesting to do. The other thing too is that, as technology gets better, AI is getting better, we might continue finding ways to make alternative sources. And I mentioned something about maybe genetically modifying the animals to drive natural age, so that we wouldn't have to physically kill them at an earlier age, or maybe just letting them live their whole lives out, because this is something that I don't think that people in this community have really thought about, because we do have millions upon millions of livestock, maybe billions in the planet right now. And so if we were to stop eating them, we have to worry about taking care of them some way, somehow. So there's something else to consider in that. But, we're getting better technology. You think ethically we're developing. So who knows what the future might hold. But in the preface that we're at right now, let's try to have just a little bit of empathy in these conversations, So anyway, my daughter is crying out there. I am going to get going here, but got to go take care of her. But seriously, again, thank you guys again. I really appreciate your time. And yeah,
Right.
as we have these conversations, though, just remember, try to, what I wanted to say, is just try to believe that the other person is coming from a good position, and that just because we do or we don't do something that they do or don't do doesn't mean that we're better than them ethically. We're all learning and growing. So yeah, thank you,
right.
Mage. Thank you, Scott. And hope you guys have a nice weekend.